Chris Philp today stood up in Parliament and used a murdered woman's name to defend the Rwanda plan. He doesn't care about the facts of the case, he cares about the ghost of a policy that died years ago. You know, the scheme that cost £700 million and successfully deported 4 volunteers. And when Shabana Mahmood called him out for using individual tragedies to make political points, he doubled down by reading out a list of crimes like he was going through the greatest hits album. He then closed by demanding we leave the ECHR, because apparently this is the new Brexit, the magical solution that will fix everything if only the establishment will let us do it. So here we are with the opposition. It's beyond parody at the moment, it really is. He's just tried to blame Labour for a murder that he claims the Rwanda plan would have prevented. And I want you to understand how many layers of dishonesty are actually packed into what he said. Let's have a watch.
Deng Majek from Sudan is an illegal small boat migrant who was sentenced last week to 29 years in prison for the brutal murder of Rhiannon Whyte. He stabbed Rhiannon 23 times as she desperately tried to defend herself. Given the timing of Majek's arrival in the summer of 2024, he would have been eligible for deportation to Rwanda. But Labour cancelled the Rwanda plan and instead accommodated this illegal immigrant in a hotel at taxpayers' expense. Does the Home Secretary now accept it was a huge mistake to cancel the Rwanda plan just before it started, which would have seen Majek deported, thereby preventing Rhiannon's murder?
There's so much wrong with this, it's really hard to know where to start. But let's begin with the most obvious problem. The Rwanda plan never worked. It didn't start, it didn't deport anyone who didn't volunteer to go, and the entire scheme from announcement to cancellation was successfully removed 4 people. And that's it, 4 people, all of whom went voluntarily, and we paid them to go. That's the legacy. £700 million for 4 volunteers. Works out around about £175 million per person if you're keeping track. So when Philp says that the Rwanda plan would have seen him deported within weeks, he's speculating about an alternative reality where a scheme that never functioned suddenly started working perfectly. And that's not including the 17 or maybe 90 odd thousand people that were on the backlog. And we can't be sure about the actual figure of the backlog because when James Cleverly was Home Secretary, well, he didn't really want to tell you.
Are still being addressed, but we've now dealt with, in one way or another, every single one of those 92,000 claims. In total last year, we did 112,000 applications. That is the largest number since 2002, the largest number in over 20 years.
You might have looked at all the cases, but if you've still got 4,500 unresolved, you haven't really cleared the backlog, have you?
Yes, we have, because the backlog referred to cases that hadn't been looked at, hadn't been processed.
I think most people would assume that the backlog, clearing the backlog is dealing with them, not just looking at them.
That number.
One figure we can agree with is the 17,000 plus that seem to have just sort of disappeared. Where have they gone?
Well, some of them will have left. Last year we saw a two-thirds...
They all haven't.
Probably not all of them.
So Philp is asking us to believe that a policy which spent years being challenged in the courts, which was declared unlawful by the Supreme Court, which required emergency legislation to override those rulings, and which ultimately achieved nothing beyond those 4 voluntary deportations, would have somehow processed and removed him before he committed the murder. So the idea that they were going to suddenly find the competence to deport him within weeks of arrival is absolute total fantasy. Thankfully, Shabana Mahmood calls this out immediately.
Well, let me say first and foremost, Mr. Speaker, that the murder of Rhiannon Whyte was an abhorrent crime, and our thoughts are with her loved ones. And I would caution all members against using individual cases to make a bigger political point, as the Shadow Home Secretary has just sought to do. He knows full well his government's Rwanda plan was nothing more than a gimmick. £700 million spent on 4 volunteers going to Rwanda. There is no silver bullet in dealing with the mess of the migration system left to us by the previous Conservative administration, but we are taking action across every front to get illegal migration under control and to secure our border.
And she's right. This is exactly what Philp's doing. He's using a horrific crime, invoking the victim's name, and using her murder to resurrect a failed policy that his own government couldn't make work. It's pretty sick, to be fair. And then here's where it gets even more cynical, because Philp doesn't actually stop there. He responds by saying this.
The Never started, because this government cancelled it. She talks about gimmicks. Her government's gimmicks have failed, and that is why cross-channel migration is up 42% since the general election. And I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, this is not an isolated case. Hundreds of crimes have been committed by illegal immigrants, including a 30-year-old woman raped on a Brighton beach, a 15-year-old girl raped in Leamington Spa by 2 Afghan small boat migrants, and a girl aged just 12 strangled and raped by 2 illegal immigrants in Nuneaton. So does the Home Secretary agree this cannot go on and that only radical action will fix this? And just like the Father of the House said earlier, we need to leave the ECHR and deport all illegal immigrants within a week of arrival, and then the crossings will stop.
He's literally reading out a catalogue of sexual violence, framing each crime by the immigration status of the perpetrator, building this narrative that immigration equals danger. This is a deliberate rhetorical technique. He's not making a policy argument anymore. He's creating an emotional association between immigration and violence. He's bypassing the actual debate about whether the Rwanda plan worked or could work, and instead just hammering home this message: immigrants commit crimes, Labour cancelled deportations, and therefore Labour is responsible for the crimes. And did you catch the magical solution at the end? We'll fix everything by leaving the ECHR. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. This is exactly the same playbook they used with Brexit, just with a different target. Think about the pattern. Brexit was sold as the simple solution to complex problems: immigration, sovereignty, economic control. It was blocked by elites and foreign interference. It was going to restore British control and fix our borders, and the Conservatives championed it loudly, rode it to electoral victory, and then immigration hit record highs under the government. Post-Brexit, net migration went up, not down. The simple solution didn't deliver. So now they need a new scapegoat. A new, if only we could do this one thing, everything would be fixed. And that's the ECHR. It's blocked by unelected foreign judges and European courts. It's stopping us from controlling our borders. It's the establishment holding Britain back. Leave the ECHR, deport everyone with a week, and then crossings will stop. It's the same con, just different letters. And all they're trying to do is take away your protections, 64 million people's protections against the state. They don't care about a few thousand people crossing the channel. They want to take away the protection of your human rights away from 64 million people. And as for Philp, the Speaker had it spot on. He had to tell him to calm down because it didn't look good on TV.
Home Secretary.
Well, what I would say to the honourable gentleman is he's only picked up this new policy of leaving the ECHR in opposition, not one that they took up when they were in government, and I'm afraid he's just carping now from the sidelines, to which he has been condemned by the British people for failing to control our borders. It is this government that is sorting out the absolute abject mess left by the Conservative Party in our migration system.
Order. Mr Philp. Can we just calm down, please? It doesn't look good on TV for anybody shouting somebody down.
We are already taking action, Mr Speaker. We will go much further, and we will not stop until we have restored order to our border.
And he's right, it doesn't look good. It looks like a man who knows his party's failed, trying to use a tragedy to buy back some relevance.